Let's do it.
Welcome to the Leader Mentality Show with Rob Clemens. We are here today with a very special guest. We've had so many great guests on the show over the years, but I think you guys are in for a real treat today. We're going to talk a little bit about his tips for success. We're going to talk about how to manage people. We're going to talk about finding your style and diving into your role. And I want to tell you about this guy before I even introduce him. Some of you might already recognize him. He's an acclaimed chef. He's two-time champion of Guy's Grocery Games. He is a culinary virtuoso. I got that right off of your site. Owner of Milk and Honey, so he's got an entrepreneur background, and he is the host of Chef Swap at the Beach on the Food Network. Welcome to the show, Mason Zeglen, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Man, well, I think it's very cool, first of all, to have a local guy who's doing big things, man. The show, I've mentioned a couple of people. By the way, spoiler alert, Mason's going to be at the home show with us, signing some autographs, so we're looking forward to it. And I mentioned that, and everybody kind of knows your name. They're excited to have you there. So, yeah, man, well done.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we've been in town for about 2 years now as an owner-operator of Milk and Honey Coffee Cafe. Super excited to kind of shake up the coffee scene a little bit here in the Grand Strand. We make everything from scratch. I mean, we make our own syrups and sauces for our coffee. We've got 2 great local coffee bean roasters that we utilize different beans from different sources.
Nice.
And then we bake everything from scratch. So all of our pastries every night, usually starting around 4 a.m. We're in that kitchen baking everything fresh. And then we even bake all of our own bread and biscuits, which is the base of all of our a la carte dishes that we bake that we make out of the back.
Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, when you say baking your biscuits fresh, I think, man, a good biscuit, and maybe this is just the southern part of me coming out, but man, a good biscuit, man, if you hit it right, it's nothing can beat that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about like getting it to laminate, make it light and fluffy and really get that flour to layer between those layers of butter.
Fluffy. Who, other than your place, who has the best? Give me somebody else that has a great biscuit in this town or anywhere.
I mean, I like Sevenfold.
Okay, they're good.
We have a very similar style where it's all about working that dough pretty minimally and then layering it properly.
Yeah.
So that you really, like, when you bake that thing up, it needs to explode.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and tell you about my culinary virtuoso-ness. I opened the can of Pillsbury where you press it on the That's about the limit of my stuff. Well, dude, man, this is really cool. I appreciate you being here. You're talking a little bit about some of the things that are going on. You're a busy guy, man. What all are you into right now?
I mean, right now, I'm really focusing on my coffee shop, Milk and Honey Coffee Cafe. We're located right in Surfside Beach. We're kind of in the epicenter. We're on the edge of tourism meets permanent residence in the Myrtle Beach area. So we really love seeing our locals in there and being a gathering space for our community and really just making sure that we're there for our community. But then when summer hits, we're like just to the walls.
Oh, yeah.
We're just like packing 400 people through the building a day, really just trying to serve the masses, but do it in an authentic, like unique way, a way that we can tell our story, our food journey, and just like show our personality through our food and drinks.
I agree, man. And I think that's really important. One thing that I would love to hear about, as you talked about, you're shaking up the coffee scene, you said, and that's a great way to look at it. Tell me how you guys think you're different. Somebody's driving down through the area and you pass by a couple of the big names. I'm not going to use their names on the show, but you pass by a couple of those and then you see your place. How are you different than the competition? What was your idea there?
I mean, our difference is scratch-made food. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, large corporations can't afford the labor or afford the mistakes of making everything from scratch. So we grab unique flavors, sometimes combinations you maybe have never tried in coffee before.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a rosemary vanilla latte. I mean, we've got a maple sea salt latte. Right now we're doing like specials like Oreo cookie and like just like some cool stuff for Valentine's Day. We've got a strawberry milk that we like to pull out this time of year. So really inventive, different ways of thinking that you might not just like get with commercial coffee industry. But I'm really trying to take my background as a farm to table and fine dining chef and bring it to the masses, bring that kind of talent and expertise and knowledge of how flavors work and manipulate it in a way that everybody can enjoy it in a way that we can open our doors for way more people than you ever could at a high-end restaurant charging $60 a plate.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. How'd you come up with the name Milk and Honey?
Milk and Honey is close to my heart just from traveling the U.S. When my wife and I moved out of Montana, we were trying to find a place where we could open a restaurant and really afford to live again. The Grand Strand was interesting. It's the one area where we could really get our foot in the restaurant industry, especially taking no loans, no big backing, not having any other investors involved. We really wanted it to be ours, and we wanted it to be grassroots and start small and grow it. We fell in love with the name, though, while we were traveling through the country, living in our RV. We found a couple other Milk and Honeys that just kind of had the same vibe that we really, really loved. One of them was in Texas. Another one was actually in New Zealand, when we lived in New Zealand for a little bit before we moved here.
And New Zealand.
Yeah.
We got a traveling guy, man. We haven't even gotten into your backstory yet. That's pretty cool. I can't wait to hear about that. What kind of things you learned in New Zealand while you were, developing your skill set. But we'll get back to that in a minute. Tell me a little bit about your marketing side. Every great company that starts, we talked about tips for success to start the show. You have to have a good marketing element, right? What kind of things are you guys doing?
I mean, our marketing is very grassroots.
Yeah.
We just punch social media every day for as much as we possibly can. We're doing probably 1 to 2 posts on Instagram and Facebook. And then we're probably posting about 2 to 3 stories every single day.
Okay.
We tried TikTok. I love TikTok. I mean, I use it all the time. I'm a doom scroller, man. It's my gateway to the world and to see what other people are doing.
Absolutely.
For us down here, Myrtle Beach is very unique in that sense. We have a lot of retirees here. It is a community that is very diverse. We've got our college kids all the way to our late retirees, in their mid to late 80s even. So Facebook has been one of our heaviest hitters since we moved here. And I hadn't posted something on Facebook in probably 10 years until I moved here and opened Milk and Honey.
But
it
funny,
blew
right?
up, man.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
It's funny how Facebook is. It's I'm, as a personal person, that was a world-class talk route, but it really isn't my bag to post everything. My wife is the one who's like, we're going to Universal Studios and we're doing this. And I'm kind of guy I might not even post personally, but when it comes to the business side, you really got to have it, man.
Yeah. People want to find out your story. You need to tell your story. People need a way to connect with your business. But then also just the gentle reminders. Hey, this is a special that everybody liked before. We're going to be doing it again. Get them amped up, get them ready for it, and then let them know when it released. We just started a new campaign just this week because we've got a local baker that does just macaroons.
Okay.
And we really wanted to support them over the holiday, the Valentine's season. We brought them in and they've just been flying.
Really?
So it's a really cool way to get to know your community, get to know the other business owners in your community. So we like to collab a lot too, doing shows like this, doing other podcasts. And then obviously I've had the privilege of being a host of a television show. That's been huge for me in this local area, and just being able to branch out and meet other people in the industry. We've filmed with 28 local chefs and business owners. So we've really been able to spread the word of what we do and what we're passionate about through other restaurants. And this restaurant community, even though we're 2,000 restaurants strong in the Grand Strand, it's very, very small at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny how it is because everybody knows where Myrtle Beach is in this country. A lot of people have been here, but when you get here, there's not that big of a population. We have a lot of people here, but it's not that big of a population. So you do tend to get to know everybody a little bit. Have you on the show, and we'll get back to the show in a little bit, but on the Chef Swap, have you ever had any real strong rivalries on there that are happening that are actual real life head to head?
There are some rivalries on that show. There's been some people that they might be restaurateurs, you know, in our area where they have 2 or 3 restaurants even sometimes.
Okay.
So maybe you're not seeing the same chef come up, but that chef still works for somebody that's gone up before, you know? So when it really comes down to like the rivalries, sometimes it's family members. Sometimes it's just 2 people that knew each other from another restaurant that they used to work at. So, I mean, a lot of it is, you know, behind the scenes.
Oh, sure,
sometimes,
sure.
But then there's times where it's not too.
Well,
and they're very open about it, you know. But at the end of the day, we all live in the same community. We all like going to the same places. We all like having a drink at the end of the day, you know, like and chit chat and just shooting it with somebody else that lives and experiences the
same kind of
life.
thing. Yeah, no, it's and there is in a sense, I'm sure, a brotherhood, sisterhood kind of thing about it. So it's very cool. Well, speaking of marketing, our sponsors, Carolina Bays, got you a little something to take with you today.
That's awesome,
man. We got some. Now check out these aviator sunglasses, man. They went big at Carolina Bays. I should say we did. I have a little part in that. But check those things out, man. When you talk about marketing, we want to give you something that you can go out and really be proud of. It's got a little Carolina Bays logo at the bottom of it, and looking good. You see what we do over here? Very cool, man.
I mean, it's sunny here, so it makes sense. You know, like get a product that somebody's gonna wear.
That's
I mean,
the
like
thing.
that's what we're all about. I mean,
I love that.
I'm rocking like long sleeve t-shirt material right now.
Man.
Earlier this morning, I was in a thick hoodie, milk and honey hoodie.
Yeah.
You know, like, and then we have 3 or 4 different style t-shirts at the same time. Like,
well, and it's cold outside, so you're trying to give people things. I feel like that constant bombardment of branding is so important though, and it's more subtle nowadays, right?
Yeah.
You just a subtle kind of branding. So anyway, you got to have the token koozie, got a little sticky wallet in there for you. So listen,
I
man,
mean, we all like to have a good time.
right.
Go
Awesome
Gamecocks.
stuff. Yeah. Hey, man, shots up. Well, hey, man, thanks for sharing that, and enjoy the fine gear there from Carolina Bays.
I appreciate it.
Awesome, dude. Well, listen, man, you talked a little bit to me off the show about, you know, kind of your journey a little bit, some of the things you learned along the way. How did you get to where you're at, man? Take us back.
I mean, for me, I grew up on a small, self-sustainable agriculturalist farm. My parents, it's my nice way of saying my parents were just hippies, you know? My dad was a Vietnam vet, you know, just wanted to live in the woods, do his own thing, raise and grow everything for our own sustainability.
Yeah.
So I have a sustainability background just the way I grew up. But that led me to have a very strong connection with food. Where we're slaughtering our own animals. We're learning how to preserve it. We're root cellaring all of our harvest from our gardens. And then we're also like canning, freezing, doing whatever we can to preserve those items so that we can have them for the rest of the year. This kind of like grassroots campaign, just like being so connected with the land, really was what led me to becoming a chef. I knew I loved food. I knew I loved eating. I was a fat kid, you know, that loved sports, you know, like even though I did all the sports, I still was the chubby kid.
And obviously slimmed up over time. That's a whole other story.
Yeah, totally. You know, you got to keep working hard at it.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to find that balance somewhere. I knew I loved food, you know, from a very young age. I was always finding myself in the kitchen. So when I got the opportunities in high school to do the VOTEC program for culinary art, I jumped right in. You know, we had 72 applicants for 14 slots, and I managed to get into that.
Nice.
Then I was pre-accepted into the New England Culinary Institute in Montpelier, Vermont, as a junior. So I already knew before I even graduated high school, I knew I was going to culinary school.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha.
So I was very, very determined and very career driven. Like if I was going to do a trade, I was going to try to do it the best I can. And I think I got that from my parents.
And you've always, so that's something that's a trait within you. You've always been like that. You're going to dive into something, you're going to try to be the best at it.
Very competitive. This is a sports background too.
He's the Michael Jordan of chefs. You know, he's like, I must win.
Totally.
Cool.
I just feel like my parents were entrepreneurs. So especially when it came to our careers, it was like, your career has to come first. You got to try very hard. You need to be very determined and focused. no matter what that is.
Yeah.
You know, my mom had her own house cleaning company, but like if you're going to be cleaning houses, make sure that you're the best at cleaning houses.
Yeah,
my dad was
yeah.
a construction worker, you know, and a general contractor, you know, same thing. You know, like if you're going to do it, just make sure like that's your reputation, you know? So I think to like a lot of like kids, you know, and stuff like that, it's like learning how to own your product, whether you're producing it for yourself or producing it for somebody else, doesn't matter. Like that's your reputation. Your product is yours.
I'm going to build right off of that. I've said this phrase a lot over the years, and I believe it. You know, sometimes you meet these people who think they're too good for the job they're in. And it happens, you know, and look, maybe you do have higher aspirations of where you're going to go in life, but they think they're too good for that job they're in, and they act accordingly. And the problem is usually that's the thing that's keeping you from getting further ahead. I always said, what you're doing today is an audition for tomorrow. It always is. So like if you're going to be the best chef, or you're going to be the best floor washer, whatever you're doing, be the best, man. That might be your next opportunity.
You can do anything for a year. It does not matter how bad that job is. You can shut up and put up for a year. You know, like, but like use that as a learning lesson. You know, like you don't know who you're going to learn from. I mean, I've learned great, authentic dishes from dishwashers that are from other countries that just don't have the language, like, or they're fighting a language barrier to be more successful in their job at the time, you know. But like those people come in and they work hard and they're gonna get that opportunity to level up, you know. And like you don't ever know. I mean, like you might learn something from a totally unexpected place, and I think one of my chefs in culinary school really put that into my head, you know, like because I was a young, cocky kid that like knew I was pretty decent. I had a lot of natural talent, but like he made sure to let me know that I wasn't special.
Hey, dude, there's a lot of good cooks out there. It's kind of like, what are you going to do to set yourself apart? Dude, I totally love where you're going with that. Let me ask you this. So I know that you got into the game young. Okay, and I think some people have experienced the young guy in the crowd. Everybody is a little bit older than you, or not, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of the people you're talking to are older than you, and you find yourself trying to establish that, you know, hey, I know something. Tell me about that journey for you.
I mean, for me, it was right after culinary school. I got that piece of paper. I knew what I wanted to do. I was hungry, and I had like a lot of natural talent for food and flavor and like how to put dishes together. I had an art background, so I was very artistic with my food and I could make my food stand out in a crowd. What I didn't have was managing people. You know, like I had some opportunities in culinary school to like manage the class, you know, but like I had never done it full time. So I knew my biggest challenge was like, hey, how can I jump in and learn what I need to learn to be successful in this industry for the long haul? And graduating culinary school at 19, I went out and just started beating on doors. You know, like who's going to give me that opportunity to run a kitchen like right now? And I did that, you know, like I was given an opportunity to come in and stage for 3 days. After the first shift, I got the job, and it wasn't a luxury job. It wasn't a fine dining restaurant or anything like that. It was a mom and pop owned bed and breakfast with a bar and restaurant. You know, the food was simple, but it was delicious. Everything was scratch made. So yet again, I knew I could do the food, but what I didn't know I could do was how am I going to lead this staff where I am the youngest person in this building.
You got to get over the ego hump first, you know? I mean, you got to kind of establish like, hey, I know what I'm doing, but at the same time, you have to be very careful because if they sense a cockiness in you, that also can affect you.
I mean, people are people, you know? You just took that job potentially from that sous chef or that line cook that was looking to get that raise and that chance to manage that. So like, how do you navigate this avenue of coming into an industry and coming into an already social environment where people have all these connections and you're the new guy, you don't have any connections, you don't know any of these people, and there's a huge age gap. I mean, I was probably the youngest person there by a decade.
You're the little brother eternally, no matter what happens. Well, so what was something that you learned about people management from that 19-year-old version of you to the you of now? What have you learned most?
I think be personable, you know, like make sure you're building bonds, make sure you're asking the right questions, make sure you're not trying to be better than anybody else, because you don't know how they did it in that kitchen. I mean, cooking is super diverse, so like going in there and being humble and like knowing like, hey, maybe I should ask them how they want this done at the beginning. And then you keep manipulating it to make it the best product possible once you find out exactly where their baseline already is. But coming in hot and being like, we're just going to scrap this whole menu and redo it and it's going to be great, like isn't the way you want to come in as a new leader in a situation. Like you need to build that trust through those employees first. And then you can keep manipulating it. You can argue the fact like, hey, if we just tweak this or do it this way, maybe we can keep improving this product to be the best in town.
Yeah, no, it's like you're not scrapping anything that they've done, you're hopefully enhancing it. It's like, to use a food analogy, it's like, hey, that little extra salt sprinkle might have been the thing that made it even better, right?
Oh, totally. Take it to the next level, and even take some kosher salt and hit it with a smoke gun in a Ziploc bag and make your own smoked salt. Or I even at the restaurant right now, I make my own herb salt. Nice. So I just like take kosher salt in a food processor, throw in a bunch of fresh herbs, parsley, thyme, rosemary, sage, and a couple cloves of garlic, and grind it all together. Spread it out on a sheet tray for 24 hours, and you have like an amazing, bright, lush, flavorful salt to season stuff with.
Now you see what just happened there. I tried to throw in a food analogy, and he went full foodie on me. That's awesome. I like something you said there. You talked about not coming in with what I would call coming in with assumptions. It's very human nature for us to come in and we know what we know, and we almost size up people. We assume that they don't know what we know, or that they don't know something of value. And I'm not saying that's what we actually think, but we treat them accordingly. So you said something there. You kind of get to know what they know. You kind of get to communicate, find out what they're great at. I've found that in management, everybody tends to be the best in the room at something. You don't know what that thing is until you really get to know them. So that's where that conversation comes in.
Sometimes the best managers aren't the best in that industry. They just know how to get the best out of their employees.
Very, very, very good point. I would say most of the great college and head coaches in the NFL, for example, were not necessarily the best player on the team when they were playing, but boy, they know how to motivate. So cool stuff, man. Let me hit you with another thing. At one point, again, off the show, you told me about diving into the role. You said a part of your success has been that you just dove in. Tell me about how that has affected you and how it's kind of been a big driver in your career.
I strongly believe that there's no better way to learn something than to just go head first into the situation. You need to fail before you can learn how to be successful in that realm. So with me, with Milk and Honey Coffee Cafe, I'd never been in the coffee industry before, but I had over 30 years of restaurant experience. So it didn't scare me to know that yet again, I was going to go into a themed restaurant that I'd never done before, but like I knew I needed to learn it as fast as I possibly can. And to put that pressure on yourself, the best way to do it is just go in there and just start executing it. Do your research as fast as you can. Test stuff at home as fast as you can, but the real world is a whole nother ballgame. So you're never going to get that experience any other way than just actually going out there and taking the bull by the horns and just doing it.
Dude, I'm so fascinated by what you're talking about. To start a coffee place, and when you've never had a coffee place before, and I kind of picture you, and you can share with me if I'm wrong, I kind of picture you start off with like a really basic coffee, you try that out, and then you start tinkering, right? You got to figure out like, let's try something with this. I don't know how you did it, but you guys I've been to your place. Delicious. Go try out Milk and Honey for sure. But when I got there, there's a overabundance, not overabundance, but there's a great abundance of things to try. Each one of those flavors, did you like sample them, taste test them?
Yeah.
So, how did you do that?
Yeah, I mean it's just process of elimination. But like starting with your favorites, like start collecting all your favorites in that one category, and really just start manipulating them to make them your own. Okay. I love caramel, like a salted caramel something. But we wanted to pay a little homage to us both growing up and living in Vermont most of our childhood. So we do a maple sea salt. So it's like you're still getting those caramel flavors, but you're getting it in a much different way by using maple syrup instead of just a house-made caramel sauce.
Okay, yeah.
But that's also a way to stand out and be unique,
Yes.
and get people to try something that they don't normally do. We get all real Vermont maple syrup for all of our coffees. So, and like that stands true to like our bee sting. Like we use all Atlantic honey.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay.
it's like all from the East Coast.
Like it.
So taking really nice product, like, and elevating it. And like, that's what I've done in my entire career. It's like I work extremely hard. I get extremely focused. I OCD out on it. But at the same time, it's like, just like in the food industry, the coffee industry really thrives off this quality. Like if you can find the best beans around you, then your coffee's going to stand ahead next to the other person. Then it's a matter of like, okay, well, how well can I calibrate my machine? That's something that a lot of people outside the coffee industry don't know that we have to do every day. Like, okay, is our grinds dosing right? Is the right amount of weight of grinds coming out of the grinder every time? Then is it brewing long enough? Is the extraction time of those beans long enough to actually trap the proper flavor that you're shooting for? Too fast? Too acidic, too long, too bitter. Like, where's that middle ground? And like knowing how to manipulate those times.
Good God, there's a science to this.
And then frothing your milk properly. If you inject too much air into your froth, then it's not going to have latte art. It's just going to be a blob. If it's too thin, it's going to pour right to the bottom, and there's going to be no flow.
I was expecting it to be like in a washing machine when you put in too much detergent and it goes all over the place. No,
For us, it's all repetition, though. I mean, the cooking industry is built off of repetition. And I think a lot of new people coming into the industry forget you have to do things thousands of times to perfect it. And perfection is not achievable. But how close can you get to that perfection is what's important.
It's going to be the thing. Was there ever a coffee that you guys thought was going to be good and you just had to exit off of the menu?
I've had some ones that have like are real tricky. I mean, quite honestly, we had never done Oreo till just recently. And I was like, I'm gonna make Oreo syrup out of Oreos to get like that authentic flavor.
Sounds good.
I literally like made a sauce. It was too thick to incorporate into a syrup. Like it just like couldn't work. Like it just sat at the bottom of the cup. So then we were like, you know what this would make is like a perfect pastry. Like we'll make our Revel bars like an Oreo Revel bar.
What a genius move. It's like if it doesn't work in the coffee, we can still make a good pastry out of it. That's really funny. Cool.
And then we ended up like, it was like too oozy to be a pastry. I was like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna turn this back into a syrup because like, I still have faith that this could actually come out. We turned Oreo cookies into a syrup, into a pastry, back into a syrup. Everybody freaking loves it. Everybody's asking for it to be like on our menu.
Oh my God.
It's like this whole thing. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to make a cookie into a syrup, into a pastry, back into a syrup. like I need to scrap this and completely rework this.
I was about to say that, and the syrup costs $900 a cup, Man, well, I love hearing that journey, man. I tell everybody, go check out Milk and Honey Cafe, and just great coffee. So if you got a little bit more time for me, two or three more minutes? All right,
totally.
Let's do this. Tell me a little bit about the show that you're doing, Chef Swap at the Beach. How did you get into this, and a little bit more about the show?
Chef Swap at the Beach is just a great opportunity to showcase two local chefs and let them tell their story of how they experienced the food industry, what brought them to the industry, why are they still in the industry, and hopefully be able to show off a little bit. We're going to give them a 60-minute timer. We're going to give them a weird cooking challenge. We're going to put them in the opposing chef's kitchen, so they're not going to know where anything is. I mean, it's a reality TV show, so you got to shake it up a little bit. But at the same time, we're gifting them the opposing chef's sous chef to be able to help them and show them around. We're also hoping that they build bonds and connect with other chefs in the community because we know that's what's going to drive this community to keep getting better and better over time.
It's like people pushing each other to get better. Tell me one thing that you found about all great chefs. chefs? Because you've seen a lot of them. You are a great chef. Tell me what's a common trait that you've noticed amongst all of them.
I mean, we're great under pressure. You know, like you can put us in some of the worst situations you can imagine having to perform in, but we're still going to produce that product and we're going to do it to the best of our ability. Great chefs just have this ability to just separate everything else, just like
compartmentalize.
Yeah. This is what I need to do. X, Y, and Z. This is the fastest way to get to that route, and this is how I'm going to multitask it.
Yeah. Did you have to audition to become that, to get in that role, or how did that come about?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to get on television anywhere, pretty much, you're going to have to audition. So even though this is in the Grand Strand, and we're locally producing this here in Myrtle Beach, it's actually part of the Chamber of Commerce that's actually producing this show.
Sure.
So we actually, they found out I moved to the area, and they actually reached out to me since I had just opened up a restaurant. They really wanted a local talent to really put with their other two local judges. One's a food critic. We've got Miss Johanna Wilson-Jones, who's a local food critic and has been for probably 25 years here in the Grand Strand. And then we also have Dylan Foster. Dylan has been in the chef world around the Grand Strand. He first showed up here to open Wicked Tuna in Merle's Inlet, and is still in the area. He does a lot of consulting now, actually, for other restaurants.
Oh, very cool, man. It's making me hungry talking like this. We're going to have to... No, I mean, definitely mention places like Wicked Tuna. Great place, man. We talked about a lot of good food today. Well, listen, we talked a little bit about your tips for success and how to manage people. I love that you said that. It's a communication game. So many powerful things. You are going to be coming up at the home show signing autographs with us this coming weekend.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about how people can find you.
Come on down to Milk and Honey Coffee Cafe. We've got an open kitchen. I'm down there at least 6 days a week. I love telling my story and getting to know my community that much more. If I'm not at the cafe, I'm probably at the beach surfing or trying to have some fun other ways. So we actually get a lot of people just hanging out on the beach and just grabbing a board and trying to enjoy some sun and some waves, especially in the afternoon after we close. But 7 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. every single day, Milk and Honey Coffee Cafe.
Awesome, dude. And you can catch them surfing on that meantime. You fit in at the beach very well. Hey, Mason, we appreciate you being on the show, man.
I appreciate you.
Good
Thanks
stuff.
for having me.
And come check out Mason. He'll be at the home show this Saturday at 11 o'clock. He's going to be signing autographs. He got a little something. So come by, get a headshot, get a picture, and come learn from one of the best, man. Very good stuff. And for those of you listening, we appreciate all of our fans of the show. Thank you, and keep passing on our name, sharing us on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you like to go. And we'll see you all next time on the Leader Mentality Show with Rob Clemens.
Check it out.
Awesome.